Jake Reynolds was a gruff but kind-hearted auto mechanic in a quiet town, known more for his silence than his smile. Life had never been easy. He'd grown up in the foster system, never had a real family, and after a failed marriage, he threw himself into fixing engines rather than fixing people. One rainy afternoon, Jake had just closed his garage when he heard a faint coughing sound from across the street. Looking up, he saw a little girl sitting in a wheelchair, completely soaked. Next to her stood a flustered young woman struggling to push the chair over a broken curb in front of a rundown apartment building. "Need a hand?" Jake called out, not sure why he even offered. The woman looked up, startled. I just moved here. My daughter's really sick. The elevator's out, and she needs to get up to the 3rd floor. I can't carry her." Jake hesitated. Emotions weren't his thing. But when he looked into the pale face of the girl, maybe 7 or 8, she gave him a weak smile and said something strange. "If you carry me up the stairs, I'll tell you a secret." Jake blinked. "A secret, huh? What kind?" She shrugged. "A big one. But only if you do it." There was something about her eyes, mature beyond her years, sparkling despite the obvious pain. Without another word, Jake picked her up. She weighed almost nothing. As he climbed the creaky staircase, she giggled softly. "Most people think I'm fragile. But you didn't treat me like glass." Jake didn't respond. He couldn't. Something in his chest was tightening. Part 2. The Secret. Inside the small, poorly lit apartment, Jake gently placed the girl on a blanket-covered couch. Her mother, Emily, thanked him profusely, apologizing for the trouble. Jake shook his head. No trouble. Just couldn't walk away. He turned to leave, but the girl called out, "Wait. You forgot something." Jake turned around. "My secret," she said, grinning, though her voice was weak. Jake chuckled. "All right, kid. Let's hear it." She leaned closer, motioning him to come near. He knelt by the couch. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I saw you last week, at the diner," she said. "You gave your lunch to that homeless man outside. You didn't think anyone saw, but I did." Jake froze. "You're not just a mechanic," she continued. "You fix more than cars. You fix people too, even if they don't ask." Jake didn't know what to say. How did she even notice? He hadn't told anyone. Then she added something that shook him to his core. "I asked God for someone kind to help us. And then you showed up." Tears stung his eyes for the first time in years. Emily returned with a cup of tea and noticed Jake's expression. "She has a way of seeing people," she said gently. "Ever since the diagnosis." Jake looked between the two, uncertain. "What's wrong with her?" Emily sighed. "Bone cancer. Aggressive. We're trying a trial treatment at the city hospital. But it's hard alone." He left that night with a storm raging inside his heart, and a decision already forming. Part 3. The Promise. Over the next weeks, Jake kept showing up. Every evening after work, he brought groceries, fixed loose boards in their apartment, and drove them to the hospital when needed. What started as a random act of kindness turned into something deeper, something like family. The little girl's name was Lila. She started calling Jake Mr. Fix-It, and insisted he braid her hair like a mechanic would, which just meant messy but full of effort. Jake brought laughter into their world, and they brought warmth into his. One evening, as Jake and Lila sat watching cartoons, she asked, "Can I tell you another secret?" Jake nodded. "You make Mom smile again. She cries less now. I think you fixed her too." Jake swallowed hard. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to. You stayed. That's enough." That winter, Lila's condition worsened, but she fought with everything she had. Jake, now a permanent presence in their lives, helped Emily raise funds online for treatment, often working late into the night at the garage to cover what he could. And when the new elevator was finally installed in their building, Jake was the one who carried Lila up the stairs one last time, just for old time's sake. "Still want to tell me secrets?" he asked, his voice cracking. Lila smiled, frail but full of light. "I already told you the biggest one," she whispered. "You're a hero. You just forgot."